At the evening gathering, my boyfriend considerately peeled shrimp for his first love who just returned from abroad, right in front of me. Sorry, sis, don't be mad. Ah-sung has always been such a gentleman. I raised an eyebrow, then turned and straightened his friend's collar right in front of him, finishing by casually wiping the corner of his friend's mouth. Since you're being such a gentleman, I suppose I'll have to play the part of the dutiful one. Ji-sung considerately peeled shrimp for Linny Tong right in front of me. Linny Tong gave a charming smile and said thank you in a sweet, delicate voice. Everyone else at the table quietly watched for my reaction. Before I could even speak, his first love beat me to it and spoke up first. 5. Sorry, sis, don't be mad. A-song has always been such a gentleman, but Ji-sung has never peeled shrimp for me. Whenever I asked if he could peel some shrimp for me, he'd just frown and refuse without hesitation. His eyes even holding a hint of reproach. You know I can't stand the smell of shrimp. That one sentence shut me right up. Yet at this moment, the usually aloof and proud man was patiently peeling shrimp for Linny Tong. Seeing how her eyes resembled mine, how could I not understand what was going on? Ji-sung frowned at my words. Ching, I-tong doesn't know how to peel shrimp. Don't be unreasonable. In a spot where Ji-sung couldn't see, Linny Tong curled her lips at me. As if triumphantly asserting her dominance, I raised an eyebrow and gave a slight nod, looking as though I was genuinely giving it serious thought. Since you're being such a gentleman, I suppose I'll try to be a bit more ladylike. As soon as the words left my mouth, I turned and moved closer to his brother, Jiang Kwang, under everyone's gaze. Really, I reached out to straighten his collar, and then gently wiped the corner of his mouth, saying, "How careless of you, you've got something right here." Ji-sung's face instantly turned cold. Jiang Kwang was taken aback at first, then his face flushed crimson as he processed the situation. With cheeks flushed pink, she unconsciously twisted the hem of her clothes and stammered, Thank you." Ji-sung watched the entire scene unfold with a heavy gaze. Even the hands that were peeling shrimp came to a halt. His tone carried a hint of anger as he enunciated my name, syllable by syllable, Shen. Ching. I turned around and looked at him with an innocent expression. What's wrong? Am I not being virtuous enough? His fists clenched with an audible creak, and his gaze toward me turned noticeably colder. Ji-sung's tone carried a veiled threat. Shening Ching, if you keep making unreasonable demands, we're through. That old trick again. I chased after him for 3 years, always at his beck and call, fulfilling his every wish, reducing myself to the lowest possible position. So in the past, whether during arguments or any other situation, the moment he threatened to break up, I'd desperately try to win him back. So he was certain I'd cave in this time too, but this time, I'm done trying to please him. I let out a derisive laugh and said slowly, fine. At my words, an indescribable emotion flashed in his eyes, a mix of rage, bitter resentment, and utter disbelief. Before he could finish speaking, Linny Tong bit her lip coyly and gingerly tugged at Ji-sung's sleeve. Please don't argue because of me, this is all my fault. Please don't break up over me, okay? Her eyes were red-rimmed, a picture of heartbreaking vulnerability. Ji-sung couldn't bear to see her cry and immediately leaned in to wipe her tears. He whispered soothing words as he dried her tears, handling her as though she might break. Meeting Ji-sung's gaze full of blame and disappointment, I lowered my eyes. 3 years had passed. It was the first time I'd ever seen him coax someone with such tender care, yet that person wasn't me. My heart instinctively sank. Yet the pain wasn't as unbearable as I'd imagined. I suppose it's time to put an end to both my overwhelming joy and my pent-up grievances. I rose to leave, pausing at the doorway to glance back with one last flicker of hope. What a pity. Ji-sung bent down and held Linny Tong in his arms, whispering words of comfort, showing no reaction to my departure. My heart sank, and my last shred of hope was shattered mercilessly. I turned and walked away. After returning, I quickly blocked and deleted all of Ji-sung's contact information. Why should I cling to one tree and ignore the entire forest? And it's a rotten tree, no less. To my surprise, Jiang Kwang actually messaged me first. Jiang Kwang, just going to toss me aside after using me. Along with a cute whimpering puppy emoji named crying_puppy, JPG. It's hard to imagine Jiang Kwang, a guy nearly 9 meters tall, actually using these kinds of emojis. I apologized to him. He sent another message. Jiang Kwang, no worries, I'm glad I could help, but I have a basketball game this week. Would you like to come cheer me on? I saved you a spot up front just for you. Will you come? With an anticipation, JPG meme attached. I thought about it for a moment and agreed. For some reason, ever since we first met, Jiang Kwang has always given off a strangely familiar vibe. I racked my brain but still couldn't recall any memories of him. Suddenly, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Hello, I answered the call. did you block me? Jisung's voice came through gritted teeth, and I could picture his dark expression in my mind. Yeah, what's the problem? Shouldn't I have blocked you? Gee, I said with sarcasm dripping from my voice. Could you stop being so unreasonable? What more do you want from me? I let out a sudden laugh. If I remember correctly, gee. We've already broken up. Can't you be more sensible like Itang? He said, his tone laced with impatience. I laughed in disbelief. Get lost, hung up and blocked them without hesitation. Smooth as hell. I picked out a body-hugging miniskirt. I've got a killer figure. Curves in all the right places. Jisung used to dislike it when I wore this type of clothing and would ask me not to. At the time, I thought it was because he was possessive. A sign of his love for me, and I secretly felt pleased. Agreeing with him in a soft, gentle voice. But now it seems it was only because Lin Tong never wore clothes like this. Although Lin Tong and I look somewhat alike, her appearance and demeanor lean more toward the delicate and refined, while mine are quite the opposite. I tossed my glamorous, flowing curls, looking at myself in the mirror. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Big E. By the time I arrived, the basketball game was about to start, the moment I walked in. The audience erupted in excitement. Sunlight fell on my face, casting a warm glow on my jade-like skin. That girl is so gorgeous, right? Her figure is amazing. I'm so jealous. Just didn't expect Jisung to be here too. Jisung's buddy nudged him with an elbow and jerked his chin in my direction. Damn. Song, your girlfriend, lucky you, she's gorgeous. He didn't deny it. He walked over to me in a few steps. The first thing he said was an accusation. Why did you leave without a word that day? Itang blamed herself for ages because of it. I looked up and gave an indifferent oh, and then, he glanced at my outfit and frowned. I told you this style doesn't suit you. I rolled my eyes at him. Then I turned my gaze back to Jiang Kwang without another word. Jiang Kwang noticed my gaze and turned his head. Our eyes met. His eyes instantly lit up when he saw me, a smile spreading across his face. 5. Radiating warmth, like a little sun, mesmerizing. Smiles must be contagious. Seeing his made me grin involuntarily. Jisung sensed something was off and followed my gaze with a frown. His eyes immediately landed on Jiang Kwang. His face instantly darkened. Are you here to see Jiang Kwang? I shot back. That's ridiculous. If I'm not here for Jiang Kwang, who else would I be here for? The match begins. Anyone with eyes can see that Jisung constantly targets Jiang Kwang, whether intentionally or not, yet Jiang Kwang handled it with effortless ease, completely unfazed. He darted past a defender like lightning, raised the ball high with both hands, leaped up, and sank the shot with pinpoint accuracy. Jiang Kwang's team quickly gained the upper hand. The game finally came to an end with the sound of the whistle. There's no doubt that Jiang Kwang and his team took the championship. I excitedly walked past Jisung and handed the water to Jiang Kwang. Jiang Kwang's smiling eyes were fixed intently on me. He leaned in slightly, bringing his face close to mine, revealing a row of gleaming teeth, and asked with a hint of pride, "So, how'd I do?" His eyes were shining brightly, like a little puppy waiting to be praised. I couldn't resist reaching out to pat his head. Amazing, so impressive, amidst the noise. I saw Jiang Kwang's Adam's apple bob, the red on the tips of his ears gradually spreading to the base. I smiled and blurted out, "You're so adorable." Jiang Kwang is the easiest person to blush that I've ever met. Well, he hesitated for a moment. Finally, he mustered the courage to say, "I like you, may I pursue you?" This sudden confession caught me completely off guard. The breath by my ear grew warmer. His eyes filled with anticipation and unmistakable affection. I knew Jiang Kwang was Jisung's brother, but we weren't really close, but I remember every time we crossed paths, he seemed a bit awkward. I don't know why Jiang Kwang suddenly fell for me, but the affection in his eyes felt genuine. Jisung chimed in at the worst possible moment. "Shening Qing, are you done making a scene?" Jisung glared darkly at my hand holding Jiang Kwang's, barely containing his fury. "How much longer do you plan to keep up this ridiculous charade?" I turned around to see Jisung radiating cold intensity, with a smug-looking Lin Yitong standing behind him. Jisung crooked his finger at me gently. "Come here, I can forgive you, and I'll even spend more time with you if that's what you want. Just stop this nonsense." There was a hint of command in the way the final word fell. Lin Yitong stood behind him, one hand on her hip, her eyes filled with contempt. She looked like the first wife eyeing a concubine about to enter the household. I glanced at Jisung. His expression was utterly calm, not a trace of urgency. He's always had the upper hand with me. "Jisung, was I not clear enough? We've broken up, and I don't have feelings for you anymore. Aren't you happy that you can finally be with the person you love, openly and without hiding?" I held Jiang Kwang's hand beside me. Surprisingly, he didn't argue back. He studied me with a scrutinizing gaze. trying to detect any hint of deception on my face. Unfortunately, there was none. With that, I instinctively took Jiang Kwang's hand and strode away. Well, hearing Jiang Kwang speak up, I turned my head slightly to look at him. Just as expected, his ears were flushed crimson as if about to bleed, and he pointed at the hand I was holding. I quickly let go. I let out 2 awkward, forced coughs. 5. He spoke first. Would it be okay if I asked you out? As soon as he finished speaking, my eyes locked onto him, noticing my unwavering gaze. He grew visibly flustered. Why? Why are you staring at me like that? Is there something on my face? Jiang Kwang's face instantly flushed crimson. He anxiously raised his hand to wipe his face. I smiled and replied, sure. He froze for a moment, then nearly jumped for joy, beaming like a child. From then on, Jiang Kwang brought me breakfast, snacks, and all sorts of treats every day. His buddies couldn't stand watching anymore and said in frustration, seriously, man, is this how you chase after a girl? Other guys shower them with flowers every day, but from you, we haven't even seen a speck of pollen. What girl doesn't love flowers? How do you expect to win anyone over like this? It was like a whole new world had opened up to him. From that day on, I started receiving several bouquets of flowers every day. My roommate stared at the massive bouquet of flowers in our dorm room, completely stunned. Does he run a flower shop or something? He sends this many flowers every single day. Jiang Kwang messaged me at 11 p.m., asking if I was free the next day. After a moment's hesitation, I replied, yeah, I'm free tomorrow. He responded right away, great, get some rest soon, and don't stay up too late, good night. 5. I paused for a moment. Jiang Kwang would message me every night, and even during the day when we weren't together. My WeChat would always be flooded with a long string of messages. Every time I fell ill and felt miserable, he was always the first to show up. Last time, because I forgot to eat breakfast, I ended up with stomach cramps. The pain was so intense that my face turned pale, and I was drenched in cold sweat. When he arrived, there wasn't a trace of a smile on his face. It was the first time I'd ever seen him truly angry, frustrated yet deeply concerned. He scooped me up in his arms and rushed me to the hospital. On the way to the hospital, the pain was so intense my consciousness began to blur, but I faintly felt him gripping my hand and muttering, why do you always neglect your health? It was like this before. And it's the same now. From that day on, rain or shine, he came every morning to bring me breakfast and wouldn't leave until he'd watched me finish every bite. My roommates all teased that I'd be a henpecked husband someday. This couldn't help but remind me of my past self. I used to send Ji-sung tons of messages every day, yet the only reply I ever got was a simple hom. I remember one time I had a fever and felt absolutely miserable. I gave Ji-sung a call. What was it that he said to me again? Shanning Ching, I'm really busy right now. Don't bother me. He hung up without a second thought. I later found out from others that Ji-sung's so-called busy schedule that day was actually picking up Linny Tong from the airport. I realized what truly broke my heart wasn't him peeling shrimp for Linny Tong right in front of me at the gathering. That was just the final straw. It's almost laughable, really. I chased after Ji-sung for a full 3 years, and now we've broken up after just 6 months together. That day, he showed up at my door out of nowhere, completely drunk. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me into his arms, his movements fueled by drunkenness. He murmured like someone talking in their sleep. His voice barely a whisper, but I still heard him clearly. He kept calling out Itong over and over, fighting back my sorrow. I reminded him softly that I was Shanning Ching, not Linny Tong. He stared blankly, lifting his head to gaze at my face for a long while. He simply said, let's be together. He paused. He didn't say he loved me, nor did he make any promises. It didn't feel like a confession, more like a command, though I had my doubts at the time. I was too swept up in the joy to care about anything else. Looking back now, everything seems to make sense. A text message came through on my phone, from an unknown number. Shanning Ching, I don't agree to this breakup. This isn't a decision you get to make unilaterally. Stop being unreasonable. Itong is returning to the country alone, and she's an orphan. She needs me. Can't you be more understanding? Reading this made me feel physically sick. I can't believe I actually had feelings for someone like this for so many years. Turns out, being love-struck is a bad idea. You'll end up digging for wild vegetables to survive. 1,000 thoughts raced through my mind, but they all boiled down to 2 words. What an idiot. After sending it, the other side fell silent for a moment. Came the reply, you weren't like this before. I rolled my eyes and promptly blocked this number as well. Early in the morning, I saw Jiang Kwang standing downstairs like a log, holding breakfast, not saying a word, just standing there quietly, looked like he'd been standing there for quite a while. I hurried downstairs. A smile spread across Jiang Kwang's face when he saw me, quickly lighting up his features. I took the breakfast and asked, "Why didn't you call me to come down?" He scratched his head sheepishly and said, "I was afraid you were still asleep and didn't want to wake you." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Sunlight filtered through the thin clouds, casting a silvery glow on the young man's face that was almost blinding. "Do you have any plans for today?" he asked tentatively, with a hint of caution. "No, what about you?" My phone buzzed with a new message. It was from my roommate, Lin Yanyan. "Lin Yanyan, are you dense? When someone asks about your plans, they're asking you out, a date. Do you even know what that means?" I could instantly picture Lin Yanyan's exasperated face scolding me. He remained silent. I looked up at the building with confusion. 5, including Lin Yanyan, all 3 of my roommates were crowded by the window, eagerly watching our situation with gossipy curiosity. Just as I was wondering how they could hear our conversation, I suddenly noticed Jiang Kwang's friend standing not far away, looking just as nosy. "Are all roommates like this across the country?" Before Jiang Kwang could speak, I cleared my throat softly, my cheeks flushing slightly. "Jiang Kwang, let's go on a date today." Jiang Kwang's smile grew even brighter as he processed my words. "All right." It suddenly occurred to me that I've never actually been on a proper one-on-one date before. Back when I was with Ji Song, he always had 1 or 2 close female friends around. Later, when those friends disappeared, Lin Tong became the one who always inserted herself between us. I've been wanting to go to the amusement park with someone for the longest time, but it never worked out. And today, that wish is finally coming true. I dragged Jiang Kwang to the amusement park, where the screams from the roller coaster ahead echoed one after another. I turned my head slightly and stared at Jiang Kwang's profile. He looked back at me with wide, innocent eyes. A mischievous thought popped into my head. "Jiang Kwang, want to try something thrilling?" Without waiting for his reply, I grabbed his hand and headed for the roller coaster. Maybe it was his frequent blushing and shyness that made me think he was timid. After several rides, he was completely unfazed, didn't even let out a single scream. Meanwhile, I was practically scared out of my wits. He steadied me, barely holding back his laughter. "Next time we're at the amusement park, I'm definitely not riding roller coasters with Jiang Kwang," I thought to myself. We tried almost every ride at the amusement park. The smile was practically stitched to my face. It's been ages since I had this much fun. This filled me with an unprecedented sense of joy and freedom. He was like a breath of fresh air, always lifting everyone's spirits. Around noon, we picked a restaurant with plenty of positive reviews online. The server handed us the menu. Jiang Kwang finished ordering. I was surprised that he ordered all my favorite dishes. Being cherished and valued by someone warms my heart. "Awesome. What's been going on with you lately?" A familiar voice came from the next table, sweet and delicate. It had to be Lin Tong. It goes without saying who she meant by Asong. Talk about a small world. I didn't turn to look, pretending not to have noticed. Lin Tong caught sight of me out of the corner of her eye and walked over in surprise. "Ying Qing, what are you doing here?" Ji Song followed behind Lin Tong with a stony expression. I could feel an intense gaze fixed on me. 5. I retorted, "Why can't I be here?" "Did you book the entire restaurant?" she said with a hint of grievance. "But this is a couple's restaurant." She shot Jiang Kwang a meaningful glance. "I hadn't noticed when we came in, but now I see the restaurant is decked out with pink balloons, a couple's message wall, and pairs of lovers everywhere. So it really is a couple's restaurant." I smiled and pulled Jiang Kwang closer. "I'm here with my boyfriend. Got a problem with that?" Jiang Kwang's ears flushed crimson. I could feel the chill radiating from Ji Song intensify. Lin Tong muttered discontentedly under her breath. "Didn't Sister Ying Qing just break up with Asong? She's already found someone new so quickly. I'm kind of jealous." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught sight of the bracelet on Lin Tong's wrist. I recognized it instantly. It was the birthday gift I gave Ji Song last year. Back then, to afford that bracelet, I pinched pennies and worked multiple jobs day in and day out. I was exhausted every single day and ended up losing several pounds. His eyes held a flicker of complexity when he received the bracelet, but his tone was flat. "You didn't have to. Don't buy this kind of thing next time." I worked my fingers to the bone only to have someone else reap the rewards. Even if I no longer cared, it still left a bitter taste in my mouth. I averted my gaze without a trace of emotion. Ignored the two of them without another word. The waiter, sensing the awkwardness, quickly stepped in and said, "We're currently running a promotion. Couples who hug get a free small gift." Hearing this, Lin Tong linked arms with Ji Song, smiling shyly as she sweetly called out, "Asong, I want that little gift." Ji Song frowned and shook his head, then looked up to see my amused expression and clenched his fists. suddenly pulling Lin Tong into an embrace. Ji-sung then glanced up to gauge my reaction. I clung to Jiang Kwang's arm, teasingly pretending to gag at their display. Makes sense. Ji-sung's face instantly darkened. There's no way we're staying for this meal. I linked arms with Jiang Kwang and walked out of the restaurant. Just outside the restaurant entrance, I heard the sound of angry shattering dishes from inside. I turned slightly and saw Ji-sung clenching his fist, slamming it hard against the wall. After finishing our meal at another restaurant, we ran into Ji-sung and Lin Tong again in the parking garage. I immediately noticed the injury on Ji-sung's hand. What a small world, running into each other so many times in one day. I sighed, and just as I was about to get in the car, Lin Tong suddenly rushed over and blocked my way. Ching, what do you think of this keychain? Isn't it cute? I caught a glimpse of a smug smile flashing in her eyes, raised an eyebrow and replied, ugly. Just as ugly as you. Jiang Kwang couldn't help but let out a soft chuckle. She didn't expect me to be so blunt and froze in place. Honestly, that keychain was really ugly, so ugly it's hard to look at. Lin Tong came to her senses, her eyes welling up with tears again. 5. Though Ji-sung was still leaning in to comfort her, his face showed clear impatience. Just as I was about to turn and leave with Jiang Kwang, Ji-sung suddenly grabbed my hand, his grip so tight it made me wince. The altercation erupted in an instant. Jiang Kwang threw a punch at Ji-sung's face. Caught off guard that he'd actually strike in public, Ji-sung took the blow head-on, but he quickly retaliated, and within moments, both were sporting bruises from the scuffle. I stepped in front of Jiang Kwang, shoving Ji-sung back forcefully. Staggering from the push, he stared at me in disbelief and fury. You're taking his side over mine. I spread my arms wide, shielding Jiang Kwang behind me. Feeling like a mother hen protecting her chicks. Why can't I stand up for Jiang Kwang? You get to protect Lin Tong, so why can't I protect him? Ji-sung, I know you have feelings for Lin Tong, so I stepped aside for you too, but why can't you just let me go? I'm not shameless. I won't spend the rest of my life following you around like some lovesick puppy. At these words, Ji-sung swayed slightly, his gaze turning complex. He raised his hand to grab me again. I dodged and pulled Jiang Kwang away with me. Dusk, we strolled slowly along the streetlights casting a dim, yellowish glow that stretched our shadows long and thin. Jiang Kwang asked me a lot about the grievances I had suffered in the past with Ji-sung. I told him truthfully, no longer holding on to those past grievances in my heart. I could sense that something was off with the person beside me. Just as I turned to ask, Jiang Kwang suddenly wrapped his arms around me from behind. I was a bit confused, but didn't struggle. Jiang Kwang buried his face and wept. Jiang Kwang was crying. How could you let yourself suffer like that before? Do you have any idea how much it hurts me to see you like this? His voice trembled with a hint of tears and anger. Hearing Jiang Kwang's voice, I felt a piece of my heart melt away. I reached out and gently stroked his head. To be honest, it's impossible not to feel panicked. It's quite surprising to see a 6-foot-tall man sobbing with his head down. After a moment, Jiang Kwang looked up, his eyes red and slightly moist. Here, he spoke at length and broke down crying several times, choking up each time he mentioned the injustices I had suffered. I know it's not the right time to laugh, but he started crying while he was talking. Holding him, I couldn't help but laugh, and a bunch of thoughts popped into my head, like how adorable he is. And how he cries even more easily than I do. Finally, he stopped crying and we walked hand in hand. I voiced my confusion. Why did you suddenly fall for me? He didn't answer, only saying he'd tell me later. That day, Jiang Kwang mysteriously took me out. When I asked where we were going, he just smiled without saying a word. When we arrived at the destination, I immediately recognized the place. This was the orphanage where I spent my childhood. I'm actually an orphan too. I vaguely remember it was my 3rd birthday when my parents were driving me out for a celebration. We got into a car accident on the way. When it happened, my mother held me tightly in her arms, shielding me with her own body. In the end, both my parents passed away. After that, I went to live with my grandmother in the countryside, but just a few years later, my grandmother also passed away. The elders in the village said it was because I was unlucky, a jinx. I had no relatives. So I was sent to an orphanage. My thoughts snapped back to the present. This place looks like it's been abandoned for ages. Even the door is dilapidated and swings open with the slightest push. Jiang Kwang held my hand and cautiously asked if I still remembered this place. Of course, but I didn't understand why he brought me here or how he knew about this place. Jiang Kwang, do you remember that chubby kid who used to follow you around here when we were children? It suddenly came back to me. When I first came here as a child, there was a chubby kid who was always being bullied by the other children, deliberately snatched his belongings and threw his clothes into the water. with my innate sense of chivalry since childhood, I couldn't stand by. Every time, I'd chase off those bullies who picked on him. I even made him call me boss and promised to have his back from then on. To this day, I still remember the glimmer in his eyes, sparkling like scattered starlight. But then several years passed like this. He was taken away, and I was adopted a few months later. The shadow of someone from my past memories overlapped with Jiang Quan. Their eyes and brows were strikingly similar. I was quite taken aback. No wonder I felt a sense of familiarity when I saw Jiang Quan. It's hard to imagine that this 6-foot-tall man was once that chubby, adorable little kid. Jiang Quan led me to a wall with childish scribbles on its yellowed surface, instantly flooding me with old memories. Carved into it were the words, "One day, I'm gonna take my crew and conquer the world." That's definitely my handwriting. Later, "I'm going to follow the boss and conquer the world someday." I chuckled. This must have been written by Jiang Quan. Suddenly, Jiang Quan hugged me from behind. It's not a sudden crush. It's always been there. It dawned on me. He was answering the question I'd asked earlier. Jiang Quan and I are officially together now. After we got back, he confessed to me in front of everyone, and I said yes. Someone filmed the whole thing, since Jiang Quan is kind of a big deal on campus, and with his friends spreading it around, the video went viral in no time. The comments were overwhelmingly positive, all praising us as a perfect match or sending their best wishes. As I scrolled through the comments, one particularly eye-catching remark grabbed my attention. The comment read, "How ridiculous." The profile picture was an Alaskan Malamute, so I blocked them. What a baffling thing to say. My phone rang. It was Jiang Quan's buddy. He told me Jiang Quan got hurt during the game and was bleeding heavily. I shot up from my seat and rushed to the school basketball court. As I stepped out of the dorm, I saw someone unexpected standing nearby. Ji-sung gripped my wrist tightly, his tone accusatory. "Are you with Jiang Quan?" I yanked my hand away forcefully. My wrist was already red and throbbing with pain. I stared coldly at him. "So what if I am? Is it any of your business?" Classmate G, his face darkened. "Was it really worth it just to upset me?" I raised an eyebrow. "Does he still think I'm doing this to get back at him? Are you still upset about me peeling shrimp for Eton that day? I won't do it for her anymore, so you don't have to." I coldly cut him off. "Jiang Quan is still injured and waiting for me. I don't have time to waste on this." Stop, G. I'm busy. I don't care about what you said anymore. Please don't come looking for me again." Without another word, I rushed off, ignoring Ji-sung's suddenly pale face. I turned and hurried toward the basketball court. As soon as I arrived, I saw Jiang Quan surrounded by a crowd, his expression cold and utterly blank. It was as if he wasn't the one injured and bleeding. I walked over, and Jiang Quan spotted me instantly in the crowd. His cold expression immediately turned pitiful the moment he saw me. He held me, his eyes welling up and the corners turning red, looking utterly miserable. "It hurts so much." I reached out and gently patted his head, then looked down at his injury, a deep gash on his calf, flesh torn open, blood steadily flowing. My heart wrenched painfully at the sight of the wound, aching with overwhelming distress. "Let's get you to the hospital first," I said softly as I helped him up. The moment I turned around, I saw Ji-sung standing not far behind me. He was seething with anger and disbelief. I ignored it and took Jiang Quan to the hospital. While the doctor was bandaging Jiang Quan's wound, an unknown text message came through. "So the favor you mentioned was going to see Jiang Quan, huh?" I could tell it was Ji-sung immediately. I shot back with "None of your damn business" and blocked him. "Jiang Quan's wound is bandaged." I patted his head and said, "How did you end up like this?" "Just now, watching his injured calf being wrapped layer after layer with bandages." My heart ached for him, yet after the bandaging was done, he just kept staring at my face with a silly grin. I sighed, feeling a bit helpless. What am I supposed to do with my goofy boyfriend? After dropping Jiang Quan off at school, Lin Tong texted me. The last message was her asking to meet at the cafe tomorrow. It was obvious what she had in mind. I spotted Lin Tong the moment I walked into the cafe. The delicate facade she'd put on for Ji-sung vanished completely, replaced by an air of arrogance that made her seem like a completely different person. She placed the bracelet in the most conspicuous spot, and the moment I sat down, she sneered, "You recognize this bracelet, don't you? Looks familiar." "Right, I just mentioned it to brother Ji-sung once, and he gave it to me the very next day." "You really do have a knack for picking up other people's cast-offs," I replied with a smile, leaning back against the sofa. In an instant, her arrogant face contorted before my eyes. Lin Tong's hands trembled with rage as she stood up and flung the coffee from the table into my face. "Shanning Ching, why don't you just drop dead? You broke up, yet you keep pestering Jiosung all the time. Let me make this clear, Jiosung only has eyes for me. Linny Tong glared at me viciously. I wiped the coffee off my face, sprang up, grabbed Linny Tong's hair, slammed her head against the table, and slapped her hard across the face. Linny Tong's face immediately swelled up. "Ah, I'll kill you, ah," Linny Tong shrieked like a stuck pig, thrashing left and right, trying to break free from my grip. I slapped her again. Now it's symmetrical. Linny Tong's screeching grew even louder, drawing the attention of the waitstaff. I grabbed the other cup of coffee from the table and dumped it on her face, then seized her by the hair and threw her to the ground. While she was still thrashing around on the floor, I made my escape from that chaotic scene. Afterward, Linny Tong bombarded me with texts, full of insults, mockery, and every kind of vulgar language. I raised an eyebrow. This was a far cry from the delicate, fragile image she always presented to Ji-sung. I wonder how Ji-sung would react if he saw that his supposedly gentle and kind white moonlight was actually like this. Ever since Ji-sung found out I'm with Jiang Kwang, he's been texting me from different numbers every day and lingering outside my dorm building. Being harassed by these two every single day is seriously annoying. After a moment's thought, I asked the cafe for the surveillance footage of me and Linny Tong, then forwarded all the harassing messages she sent me to Ji-sung. I then sent Linny Tong a copy of the records showing how Ji-sung had been pestering me every day, along with the caption, "Keep your troll in check, I'm not interested." 5. After that, Ji-sung bothered me less often, and Linny Tong rarely sent me any more abusive texts. As expected, they had a falling out. They're either arguing or about to argue every day, so they don't have the energy to bother me. Without those two pestering me, I feel so much better, every day. It's all about teasing Jiang Kwang. I never get tired of it. Autumn is setting in. The evening breeze had a chill to it. As it was getting late, I pulled my jacket tighter and headed back to the dorm. Halfway there, a dark figure suddenly emerged from the side, startling me. "Ching, it's me." Ji-sung grabbed my hand abruptly, his breath reeking of alcohol that made me nauseous. "Ching, I've completely ended things with Linny Tong." He yanked me hard, and I stumbled, nearly falling into him. Fighting back disgust, I shook off his hand forcefully. "None of my business." He clenched his fists nervously, his tone tinged with desperation. "Ching, I was wrong. I'll never do that again. Could you just give me one more chance?" I looked him straight in the eye without a hint of hesitation. "Please don't bother me anymore. Seriously, it's really annoying." At the last two words, Ji-sung's face turned deathly pale, his lips trembling as if he wanted to say something. I cut him off. "Honestly, you and Linny Tong are perfect for each other. If possible, you should get back together and marry as soon as possible, so neither of you ends up on the market to torment other people." Ji-sung's eyes were frighteningly red. I turned to leave. He reached out to stop me, but suddenly got kicked hard, stumbling and nearly falling to the ground. "It's Jiang Kwang." Seeing Jiang Kwang, I dropped all pretense of composure and ran over to hug him tightly. I turned to Ji-sung and said without holding back, "This is my final warning. Don't come looking for me again, or I'll call the police. Stalking and harassing me with texts is really annoying." Where was all this affection back then? Ji-sung stood frozen for a long moment before finally walking away with a lonely silhouette. After that day, I never saw him again at university, and the text messages stopped too. I hardly ever heard any news about Ji-sung and Linny Tong after that. The last time I thought of them was years later at a class reunion, hearing gossip from others. I heard that after her bitter breakup with Ji-sung, Linny Tong latched onto another wealthy man. Unfortunately, he was married, and within a few years, his wife publicly assaulted her and cut off her hair. Although the wealthy man eventually divorced and Linny Tong successfully took his place, their marriage was unhappy. Her husband cheated on her not long after they wed. As for Ji-sung, his family went bankrupt soon after. He dropped out of school, became an alcoholic and a drifter. These days, it's questionable whether he even has enough to eat. You won't believe it until you see it. I just raised an eyebrow when I heard it. Without much of a reaction, suddenly, Li Nianyan patted my shoulder, smiled, and tilted her chin toward the door. "Your husband's here to pick you up. I get it when we're just hanging out. But even at a class reunion you're leaving this early." I chuckled. What can I say? I'm a bit of a husband pleaser. It was snowing outside. As soon as I reached the entrance, Jiang Kwang came over, draped another coat over my shoulders, gently tapped my cold reddened nose, and took my hand. "Let's go home," he said with a smile.